Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Appreciate your attendance today as we kind of delve a little more into our 2023 annual report. As I expressed last night, 2023 was a very challenging and tragic year for our department and our community. And I think our personnel certainly persevered and accomplished a lot in spite of all of that. A lot of good information in the report. I'm going to cover again some highlights that I think are of interest to the community, and then happy to take any questions. So one of the big things is, as we go through, is that you have an understanding of the context of the information. So numbers, there's always more than just numbers. There's information that has to be understood to interpret them in a reasonable, appropriate way. What you'll see throughout the report is our strategic plan, which has been updated and enhanced. And then there's several emblems that throughout the report you'll see near areas in which we've either accomplished or are working on one of those strategic goals. And within that, there are objectives and strategies, and you'll see definitions for what that means. And then there's also in the report, but not in the slide, I guess. Let's see here. There is a prioritization of those strategies. You'll see that in the report and on the strategic plan informational page as well, so that you can kind of figure out what's important, what we think we're working on immediately and in the future, etc. Big thing for this year was our officer wellness. Again, this is all listed in detail with additional information behind it, but we participated in a number of different training opportunities for our personnel, built resiliency, built wellness. We'll continue to expand upon that in 2024 with the hiring of a civilian wellness coordinator, in which we got a grant award from the COPS office to accomplish. So we're pretty excited about that. This has had a huge effect on our department, been extremely beneficial to its personnel, and is used very often. The crime picture. So last year we had an overall drop in crime. This year we've got crime drops in both our property and persons areas, which is significant, and also a continuing trend. You'll see an uptick in the crimes against society, which is actually a positive uptick that I can explain to you here in a little bit, and it ties in with our drug arrests and fentanyl goal that we're trying to work on. So crimes against society, and you can go to our website and look up our NIBRS end of year data. You'll see that that increase has everything to do with our proactive drug arrests, which again means that we're out there working. And that's why that particular category is up. Crimes where people are actually victims is all down. So again, a good message there for the community. And then just going through these individual crimes, you'll see that a lot of these are down significantly. Burglary, pretty significant if you're living in your house or your garage is broken into. Those numbers are down a bit, which is great. Motor vehicle theft, which is kind of, we could probably prevent 70% of our motor vehicle theft if people did not leave keys in the car. They could purchase a starting device for about $200. You would eliminate motor vehicle theft exponentially. Shoplifting, up a bit as well, but again, that's not necessarily in the control of the police. This is retail establishments and things of that nature. Those are reports to us and then subsequent arrests. Murder and non-negligent manslaughter down 60%. We had 2 murders last year, one of which was our officer, Jake Willeen. So again, looking at the percentages and the raw numbers, significant dip in murder in our city in 2023. Rape and robbery also down fairly significantly. If you look even at the robbery category, not only are the reported crimes down, but the clearance rates in the light blue are up. That's also a great indication that our folks are doing what they need to bring people to justice on these particular crimes. Ag assaults also down a little bit, and a little bit of an increase in the clearance rate as well. The domestic violence information is a subset of that aggravated assault category. So these numbers are not duplicate. They are within, same thing with simple assault, that's a subset. So that 1439 is counted within the 2378. It just breaks it out by domestic violence. Shots fired down very significantly as well. Shootings, same amount of incidents, so no change there. Increase in our clearance rate on those, which is outstanding. Our community engagement team has done a tremendous job across the city, concentrating in downtown and some trouble spots like the Arbors, engaging a variety of our community, both racial, ethnic, gender, sexual orientation, new Americans, going out and participating in training new Americans on our laws and practices here in the United States, in Fargo, as well as working with our community service providers in the mental health field. We track that pretty closely, as you're probably aware from some of the data we've given out previously, and we're trying to come up with whatever solution we can to deal with some of these chronic mental health persons who are in our community and of need of assistance. Our hiring demographics also up significantly in terms of diversifying our department, both race, ethnicity, and gender. And what you don't see in these numbers is, we're stuck on these categories. But we have ethnicity in our department that you can't measure in white, black, or Hispanic. Like, how do you characterize an Iraqi or a Bosnian, which we have as part of our department team? I don't know where they are in those numbers, but again, there's more diversity even than what you're seeing in those numbers. Same thing here, and it's highlighting diversity, race, and gender. Our drug task force, and this kind of ties into the increase in crimes against society. Last year we seized 85,660 fentanyl pills. Each one of those capable of killing an individual. In 2023, we had 31 fatal overdose deaths, and a total of 135 overdoses that the department responded to. So there's more overdoses in our community than that 135. That's just what our department responded to. The deaths, 31, again, just deaths that occurred in the city of Fargo. That's pretty significant. That's an increase of 26% from the year before, and overall, an increase in the overall overdoses from 2022 as well. So far this year, we've had through January, we've had 6 overdoses in our city, 1 fatal. That is driven almost entirely by M30s and fentanyl, which we know to be very pervasive. The fact that 2 years ago, 2021, we got about 2,000 M30 pills, and then exponentially, we've got a 126% increase in 2023 is a significant issue for our community. We're trying to do everything we can from a public safety perspective, and obviously there's other issues that affect the ability of those things to get into our community. Of course, honoring our heroes, remembering and honoring Officer Willeen, the heroic efforts of Officer Robinson, and working very diligently and supportively with Officers Andrew Dotis, Tyler Hawes to get them back on the street. Both of them continue to recover, and they're both really steered towards getting back to work with the police department. So we look forward to getting them as soon as we possibly can. And then also our firefighters and others who were involved in that July 14th event. A big part of 2023's look back. So that's kind of everything in an overview. I'm happy to take questions that you might have, or if there's things that you don't understand or have questions about, happy to answer that as well.
Hi, Chief. Whoa, reverb. Quick question for you. Yesterday at the City Commission meeting, we heard from Sanford Ambulance, and they discussed about how in first response staffing is a big issue that they have. I'm curious if you could give us a little bit of an update on how the Fargo Police Department is doing with staffing and what those efforts might look like going forward in terms of staffing and retention in 2024.
Sure, and we had a slide up on that last night as well. Our training and development unit has done tremendous work in 2023. We graduated 2 classes, 2 academy classes, 20 sworn persons added. We had 28 hires in total in 2023. We currently have 14 in our Academy 6, and we're recruiting for our May Academy. We have 6 vacancies at the moment with the May Academy. We expect to fill those, as well as the 5 positions that we've been authorized to overfill by the city earlier this year to help get us in front of retirement curve and we'll have some folks that we expect to be retiring in the near future. So we're pretty hopeful that as that Academy 7 takes place, that's going to put us above and beyond our staffing. And that's also includes the 6 new positions that we got from the COPS grant. So we already have reached our 186 that we used to have. And we're going to be supporting, we'll be able to staff our 192 and get our traffic safety unit going later this year, fill the rest of the vacancies, and then get in front of the retirement curve. So actually, we're doing very well on that.
Chief, question for you is, looking at the numbers for these M30 pills, how concerning is it from your perspective that this is becoming even more and more an issue as the years go by?
Very concerning. It's not only a Fargo issue, it's a national issue. Much of it is out of our control. Our folks on the task force, our cops out on the street, our investigators are out there, and that's where you see that increase in crimes against society, that 300 plus crimes that added to that 16% jump in that category. If you look at the NIBRS report, are almost all the drug arrests that have been made, and there's an increase there. So we're doing what we can from an enforcement side and attempt to interdict and intervene side. But think about if we seized 86,000, there's probably 3 or 4 times that amount, if not more, that is flowing through our area, and that's just our area. So this is a pervasive crisis across the country, but the regulation of it is pretty much out of our control.
Chief, hello. Pardon me. One of the things mentioned in the report was this partnership with the ATF, the Dakota's Gun Crime Intelligence Center.
Sure.
And I was a little bit curious if we had some more extended details on that. What exactly is the technology that's being brought in?
Sure. So NIBIN is the acronym. That's the National Integrated Ballistic Information Network. That's an ATF technology that is throughout the United States. We participate in it now, but we have to send all of our evidence to Minneapolis, which creates a longer turnaround time. And so what the technology does, it examines ballistic evidence, casings, and firearms that you can test fire, and it matches those casings, it correlates them with other firearms or other crime scenes. And that is a huge game changer in terms of solving and connecting related violent crime. For example, our homicide that happened in May last year with that juvenile and the drug robbery, the gun involved and the ballistics from that tied to 3 or 4 other incidents in Minneapolis, a couple shootings and a homicide in which that gun was used in the Twin Cities to commit those crimes. And Minneapolis PD was able to clear some of those crimes as a result of us sending that ballistic evidence through NIBIN, matching those correlations, and then partnering with those other agencies to exchange information. So we've seen this a number of times. I also was involved in this even going back to my time in Milwaukee, and I know what a benefit it is in terms of violent crime salvation. And so we reached out to the ATF last year to ask them if we might get a machine here so that we could turn that around quicker, and we would also take in ballistic evidence from the region. And that's where they came up with the Dakota Gun Crime Intelligence Center. We're currently in the process with ATF. With that, they provide a civilian technician to do the entries. And so we're expecting to get the actual equipment early this summer, June or July, and then have that technician on hand. And then we'll kind of get that ball rolling. But that will create quicker turnarounds on those correlations, and then we'll be able to include agencies here in North Dakota that are either not utilizing the system or maybe are sending it far away waiting for those correlations to occur.
Chief, just wanted to probe a little bit more on the fentanyl increase, M30 increase. Any trends you can talk to us about, like the seizures, any sense of where these drugs are coming from certain parts of the country?
We know exactly where they're coming from. The trend is there's a ton, and it's coming in all over the place. Its nexus is China, where the fentanyl is produced. This is information from the DEA, and they put it on their website as well, but we obviously stay informed and working with them. The fentanyl goes to Mexico, where it gets pressed into the M30 or other similar type pills that it looks like Oxycontin, or it looks like certain other pills that people might take for pain. But it's got this fatal dose of fentanyl in it mixed with other things. From Mexico, it just gets into our country in a variety of ways. Right? We've got the mail, we've got people on foot. We know that our border is fairly unregulated in reality, and we know a lot of people come up through that border. We don't know what they're bringing or what they're doing, but the sheer volume is just astronomical from what we've seen before, and everyone should be concerned about that.
How about with the overdose victims? Is there any trend that you see? Young people, is it all over the board, the fatal victims?
It's a little bit all over the board. I could get more specifics for you because we do track demographics on it. I don't know that it covers the gamut of pretty much all races, genders. What we do see is that people who overdose are a little more likely to overdose again, and at some point have a fatal overdose. Again, once they're addicted, they're attempting to get the next higher high, and they're willing to take more chances in what they consume. Some of these pills are now laced with xylazine, which is also lethal, and xylazine is resilient to Narcan. So if someone has an M30 pill that's got xylazine mixed in, Narcan will not help them. And we've seen that in North Dakota, we've seen it across the U.S. I think that's another concern going forward. If they were to do that, increased xylazine, there's no anecdote for that.
Chief, just want to ask you a little bit about the officer wellness aspect, how that's sort of leading off the agenda, and I imagine that's top of mind for you pretty much all the time, but of course, we're still all, struggling a little bit after the more recent tragedy. So I just wanted to ask, how's everybody doing, essentially? Is this something that would always be at the top, or is this something that's a little bit more pressing this year?
Well, it's definitely more pressing this year. There's a number of events that will be happening. It's a process to work through a tragedy like this at a lot of different levels. We've got everything from, honoring Jake, missing Jake, the trauma of losing him, to the events to memorialize that. The DC event in May that we'll be attending, the local memorial events in May that'll be here in Fargo and at Bismarck, where his name will be added to those particular monuments, and in the 1-year anniversary. And mixed in with that are the other things, the recognition for the heroism of Zach Robinson. He's been nominated for a number of awards, and rightfully so. So as you kind of work through this, you've got the kind of the trauma that you're working through, and then you've got the recognition for the heroic acts, and of course the heroic acts of Andrew and Tyler as well, as they fight back to come back full duty, and they're fighting hard to do that.
Chief, question I have for you is that, obviously this incident happened middle of the year, still had the rest of the year to go. What can you say about the forces, rebounding and regrouping and, getting the job done for the rest of the year?
Nothing short of extraordinary, really, because it's a big hit, I think, for a lot of people, for this to happen in your department with your colleagues, in your community. And there was a very understandable lull in terms of really just activity, and I think everyone's ability to go out and do what they normally do. I mean, for a while, everyone that has that very first accident report, right? Traffic stop, foot chase, in the back of their mind, this is what's going on, right? So that's something that we work through as a team. And a lot of these wellness programs and the things that we've done, I think, have helped get people through that so that we're back to being fully functional. I can't say enough about the really great and determined work by our department, because really, aside from that initial period thereafter, people were back out doing what they needed to do to keep our community safe and keep each other safe.
You mentioned improving mental health calls. I knew that was a big highlight or low light or last year of your report. Can you get a little bit more specific about what that looks like?
Yeah, we've partnered with as many community service providers as we can, but we've also identified a big gap in the whole mental health piece. We've got a lot of front-end services. We work well with our public health crisis response and what I will call front-end service provider or resources. What we don't have is long-term mental health treatment facility for a portion of those folks who have very chronic mental health issues that I think by anyone's review should not be walking around on their own in our community because they are not getting treated. They're often in crisis, significant crisis. And when that happens, people are calling the police. So we are dealing with that same core group of people day in and day out, not knowing how the encounter is going to go. And if you think about it, it's not only bad for them that they don't have the right kind of treatment and a facility to make sure that they're getting it. It's just as hard on our officers who are dealing with the same person, trying to de-escalate these mental health issues. It's, I think, completely unnecessary and could be changed if we could get some legislative assistance, I think, and really some political will towards establishing bona fide residential mental health treatment facilities so that these folks don't have to be walking around. The byproduct of that is that also has an adverse effect on people's perception of our city. And it also has an adverse effect sometimes on folks who call us because they expect something to happen. And last year, 2,700 calls for service, we couldn't take law enforcement action. We took mental health action, and we took people for evaluation, which was very short-lived and a lot of times right back out on the street. Several of those times within hours, we're right back with the same person. So this also is a very significant issue that we need assistance with. This should not be a police issue alone, but we are stuck in a system that does not provide us the options that we need.
Also, Chief, I noticed there was definitely a focus on system efficiency in the report and the goals for the coming year of streamlining certain processes. And I think that probably is universal for law enforcement, that they want minor things more taken care of so you can focus on the bigger issues at play. What would 2024 look like for you in terms of that? What would you most like to see cleaned up, improved, streamlined so that you could do your job more effectively?
Well, we've got a lot of options with our online reporting system. We're looking to, expand the use of that for crimes that really don't require an officer response in person. But we're also looking at technologies where we'll be working on standing up first ever real-time crime center in our criminal investigations division, which just by virtue of that and our really, really good crime analysts, intelligence analysts that we have, they've already had a huge effect on getting tactical and strategic data out to our officers, identifying patterns, identifying people who are involved in a series of crimes, and directing our resources in that direction. We're just going to continue to build upon that. We know that the technology with the Real-Time Crime Center will be very significant, and again, helping to clear crime quicker. Things from, right now we spend a lot of time looking through video to find people. There's technology that would allow us to find one person that we're looking for and let the computer do the rest. We find the frames where those people are in that, and again, hasten up that investigative time for our detectives. So we're just going to continue down that road. Other technologies that we've offered up our department with a variety of vendors to be a pilot test site for a variety of different pursuit intervention techniques, voice translation in terms of transcription of reports, and then a variety of things that will come out of the intelligence and analysis unit. Good. Okay. Thank you.